Commander Rachel Foster stood at the bridge of the UES Hyperion, her eyes fixed on the massive display screen before her. The emergency alert kept blinking, its red light casting an eerie glow across the otherwise dim command center. It was supposed to be a normal patrol mission in the outer solar system, but that changed when they picked up the distress signal. "Commander, signal strength is growing stronger," reported Officer Steve Miller from his communication station. His fingers moved quickly across the holographic controls. "It's unlike anything in our database." Rachel ran her hand through her short brown hair, a habit she'd developed during tense situations. "Play it through the main speakers," she ordered, her voice steady despite the growing unease in her stomach. The bridge filled with a strange series of sounds. Not radio waves, not standard electromagnetic signals, but something else entirely. The sound made several crew members wince and cover their ears. "Ma'am," called out Susan Clark from the sensor station, "I'm detecting an energy signature heading towards us. It's massive. It's coming out of fold space." Before Rachel could respond, space itself seemed to tear open in front of the Hyperion. Through the viewport, the crew watched in awe as a massive ship emerged. It was at least 20 times larger than their vessel, its hull covered in what looked like living metal that shifted colors in the starlight. "All stations, battle readiness," Rachel commanded. "But do not, I repeat, do not power up weapons. This could be first contact." She knew the protocols. Humanity had prepared for this moment for decades, but nothing could have truly prepared them for the real thing. The alien ship hung in space, its surface rippling like waves on a dark ocean. Then, without warning, their communication system crackled to life. "Primitive species of Sol system," a deep, artificial-sounding voice boomed through the speakers. "We are the Zarkax Empire. Your existence has been noted. Your technology has reached a level that requires our attention. You will surrender your worlds and submit to integration into our empire." Rachel's jaw tightened. "This is Commander Rachel Foster of the United Earth Ship Hyperion. We welcome peaceful contact with your species, but we do not respond to threats. We suggest." "You suggest nothing," the voice cut her off. "You have no position to negotiate, to demonstrate our power." Suddenly, Susan shouted from her station, "Commander, they're powering up weapons. They're targeting. Oh no. They're targeting Research Station Delta. It's a civilian station." Rachel's blood ran cold. Research Station Delta was 2 million kilometers away, hosting 300 of Earth's brightest scientists and their families. "Open all channels," she ordered. "Research Station Delta. Emergency evacuation. This is not a drill. All personnel to escape pods immediately." But it was too late. A beam of purple energy shot from the alien vessel, moving faster than anything human sensors could properly track. In less than a second, Research Station Delta erupted in a silent explosion, its fragments scattering across space like dying stars. The bridge crew of the Hyperion watched in horror. 300 innocent lives, gone in an instant. "This was a demonstration," the alien voice returned, emotionless. "Your species has 48 Earth hours to submit your surrender through this communication channel. Any military action will result in the destruction of your major population centers. We await your response." The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Rachel's hands gripped the command rail so hard her knuckles turned white. "Get me Earth Security Council," she said, her voice barely containing her anger. "Priority Alpha. And send them everything we just recorded." She turned to her crew, seeing the same mix of fear and determination in their eyes that she felt in her heart. "And send a message to all Earth ships in the system," she continued. "Code Red. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. Humanity is at war." As the Hyperion turned back toward Earth, Rachel stared at the alien ship through the viewport. In all of humanity's dreams about first contact, no one had imagined this. They had hoped for teachers, for allies, for fellow explorers. Instead, they got conquerors. But if there was one thing Rachel Foster knew about humans, it was that they didn't surrender easily. The Zarkax Empire had just made a terrible mistake. They had given humanity something it had never truly had before: a common enemy. Little did the Zarkax know, but their show of force had just united Earth's nations like never before. And somewhere in the secret shipyards of Neptune's orbit, humanity's answer to this threat was already taking shape. Deep in the darkness beyond Neptune, hidden within an asteroid that had been hollowed out decades ago, Chief Engineer David Cooper hadn't slept in 36 hours. His eyes were red from staring at screens, but he couldn't stop. Not now. Not when Earth had just 48 hours before the Zarkax deadline. "Chief, you need to see this," called Linda Scott, his assistant engineer. She stood before the massive window overlooking their secret project, humanity's greatest achievement in spaceship building. David walked over, his coffee cup empty for the 5th time today. Through the reinforced glass, they could see the UES Nemesis taking shape. The ship was unlike anything humanity had built before. Its dark hull seemed to swallow light rather than reflect it, making it look like a ship-shaped hole in space. "How are the dark matter readings?" David asked, pressing his hand against the cold glass. Linda checked her tablet. "Stable. The core is accepting the new programming. But sir, there's something else." She paused, biting her lip. "We just got word about Research Station Delta. The Zarkax. They destroyed it." David's hand formed a fist against the glass. His sister had worked on that station 5 years ago. He knew many of the people there. "Then we don't have a choice. We're launching today." "Sir, the testing isn't complete. We're out of time." David cut her off, turning to face the room full of engineers and technicians. "Listen up, everyone. I know we planned another month of tests, but Earth doesn't have a month. We don't even have 2 days." He walked to the central control station, bringing up the ship's specs on the main screen. "The Nemesis is ready. Not as ready as we'd like, but ready enough. Start the launch sequence." The room burst into activity. Warning lights began to flash as the massive doors of the hidden shipyard slowly opened, revealing the star-filled space beyond. Emma Wilson, the military strategist assigned to the project, rushed into the control room. "Cooper, tell me you've got something we can use against these aliens." David nodded, pulling up another screen. "The Nemesis isn't just a warship, it's a technological revolution. Watch this." He pressed a button, and on the external cameras, they could see the ship starting to fade from view. "Quantum displacement," he explained. "The ship doesn't just go invisible. It partially exists in another dimension. Their sensors won't just have trouble finding us. Technically, we won't even be fully there." Emma's eyes widened. "Can it fight while displaced?" "Better." David showed her another screen. "The displacement field lets us do things that should be impossible. They're energy weapons. They'll pass right through us if we time the displacement right. And our own weapons." He pulled up the weapons specs. "We can partially materialize our missiles inside their ships." The room shook as the Nemesis's engines powered up for the first time. Through the window, they could see the dark matter drive beginning to glow with a purple-black light that seemed to bend reality around it. "We've got incoming transmission," Linda called out. "It's Captain Mark Stevens. He's ready to board with his crew." David nodded. "Tell them to hurry. Earth needs to see what this ship can do." As they watched the boarding shuttles approach, Emma studied the tactical displays. The Zarkax rely on their size and advanced energy weapons. They've never faced anything like this. "That's the point," David said, checking the final launch preparations. "They think they know everything about human technology. They think we're primitive, but they've never seen what humans can do when we're backed into a corner." The ship's AI system, ARIA, came online, her holographic form appearing at the command station. "All systems are operating within acceptable parameters. Dark matter core is stable. Quantum displacement field is ready for testing." David looked at the countdown timer. Earth had less than 40 hours until the Zarkax deadline. The Nemesis wasn't complete, wasn't fully tested, and was running on theoretical technology that had never been used in combat. But it was humanity's best hope. "Start the launch sequence," he ordered. "And may whatever gods are out there help us all." The massive ship began to move, its dark hull reflecting no light, its engines silent despite their immense power. As it cleared the shipyard, the quantum displacement field activated, and the pride of human engineering began to fade from view. Somewhere above Earth, the Zarkax waited, believing they had already won. They had no idea that humanity's answer to their ultimatum was already on its way. Not with a message of surrender, but with a demonstration of just how dangerous humans could be when fighting for their survival. Major Brian Parker stood in Colony 7's Defense Control Center, watching as red dots filled the space around their planet. Each dot was a Zarkax ship. There were hundreds of them. "Sir, they're charging weapons," shouted Officer Robert White from his station. The young man's face was covered in sweat, but his hands remained steady on the controls. "Get all civilians to the underground shelters," Brian ordered. He turned to face the colony's defense screen, where 12 orbital defense platforms circled their small world. Colony 7 was humanity's largest off-world settlement, home to 50,000 people. He wouldn't let it fall without a fight. "Launch all fighters," he commanded, "and get me contact with the civilian evacuation teams." The sky above Colony 7 lit up as the first wave of Zarkax ships opened fire. The defense platforms fired back, their energy shields glowing bright blue against the dark of space. "Major," called Anna Wilson, his second in command, "the civilian ships are ready, but we need at least 30 minutes to get everyone through the jump points." Brian nodded grimly. "Then we'll give them 30 minutes. The battle that followed was unlike anything humanity had faced before. The colony's defense fighters, piloted by Earth's best, darted between the massive Zarkax ships. They were faster, more agile, but the alien vessels simply absorbed most of their attacks. But then Brian noticed something strange. "Look at their attack pattern," he said, pointing at the main screen. "Every time we hit their lead ships, all the others pause for a moment." He watched more carefully. "It's like they're waiting for orders." Anna moved closer to the screen. "You're right. Their ships move in perfect sync, but only after the command ships act first." That's when Brian understood. They're not independent. Their whole fleet operates on a chain of command, literally. Each ship waits for orders from above. A massive explosion rocked the control center. 3 defense platforms had just fallen. "Major," Robert shouted, "first wave of civilian ships is away. 20 minutes until total evacuation." Brian looked at the battle display again. Now he saw it clearly. The Zarkax fleet wasn't just organized. It was completely hierarchical. No ship acted without orders from above. Their greatest strength, their unity and coordination, could also be their greatest weakness. "Focus all fire on their command ships," he ordered. "Ignore everything else." The remaining defense platforms and fighters changed their targets. Instead of spreading their fire across the Zarkax fleet, they concentrated everything on the largest ships at the back. The effect was immediate. As each command ship was damaged or destroyed, whole sections of the Zarkax fleet seemed to freeze, waiting for orders that would never come. "It's working," Anna shouted. "Their fleet is losing coordination." But the victory was short-lived. More Zarkax ships appeared from fold space, too many to count. The defense platforms fell one by one. "Civilian evacuation at 80%, Robert reported. 10 minutes more." The control center shook again, harder this time. Warning lights flashed everywhere. "Main power failing," Anna reported. "We've lost 6 more defense platforms." Brian watched as their last fighters made hopeless attacks against the overwhelming alien force. But they had learned something crucial, something that could change the whole war. "Send this to Earth Command," he ordered Anna. "Priority 1 message. Zarkax fleets depend on rigid command structure. Ships cannot act without orders from superiors. This is their weakness. I repeat, their rigid command structure is their weakness. The building shook again. Parts of the ceiling began to fall. Last civilian ships are launching now, Robert called out. Brian looked at his remaining crew. Everyone to the emergency ships. That's an order. I'll hold the transmission until it's complete. Sir, Anna protested. You can't. Go, he ordered. Earth needs to know what we learned here. This information could save humanity. As his crew rushed to the escape pods, Brian Parker stayed at his post, watching the transmission progress bar. The Zarkax were destroying the colony around him, but he smiled. They thought they were just crushing another human settlement. They didn't realize they had just revealed their greatest weakness to an enemy who specialized in turning weaknesses into victories. The transmission reached 100% just as the last evacuation ships jumped to safety. In the end, Colony 7 fell, but as Brian Parker made his own last-second escape, he knew its fall might have just shown humanity how to win the war. On the edge of the system, the UES Nemesis received the transmission. Its captain and crew now knew exactly where to strike to bring down an empire that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries. Captain Mark Stevens walked onto the bridge of the UES Nemesis for the first time, and everyone fell silent. The bridge crew stood at attention, their new uniforms still crisp and clean. Through the main viewport, Neptune's blue surface glowed softly against the black of space. At ease, Mark said, taking his place in the captain's chair. He looked around at his crew, each chosen for their special skills. Status report. Lisa Martinez, his tactical officer, spoke first. All weapon systems are online, Captain. Dark matter torpedoes are loaded and ready. Engineering reports the quantum drive is stable, added John Hayes from the weapons station. His fingers moved across the controls, checking each system. We can test the displacement field whenever you're ready. The ship's AI, appeared as a blue hologram next to the captain's chair. All ship systems are functioning at 95% efficiency. This is above minimum requirements for safe operation. Mark nodded. Then it's time. Lieutenant Martinez, begin launch sequence. The massive ship hummed to life. Around them, the secret shipyard's doors opened wide, revealing the star-filled space beyond. Message from Earth Command, called out Communications Officer Peter Wright. They say the Zarkax have started attacking outer colonies. Colony 7 has fallen. He paused, his face grim. But they sent vital intelligence about the enemy's weakness. Put it on screen, Mark ordered. Everyone watched as Major Parker's message played, revealing the Zarkax's rigid command structure. Mark smiled slightly. This was exactly the kind of weakness the Nemesis was built to exploit. Mark called out. Show me the quantum displacement field coverage. The AI brought up a 3D model of the ship. A transparent bubble appeared around it, showing where the field would bend reality itself. The field will make us partially exist in another dimension, Araya explained. We will be nearly impossible to detect or hit. However, the effect only lasts for 45 seconds before requiring a 10-second recharge. Perfect, Mark said. That's all we need. Mr. Hayes, prepare for our first test. Let's see what this ship can really do. The Nemesis moved forward slowly at first, its dark hull absorbing nearby light. Then Mark gave the order they'd all been waiting for. Activate quantum displacement. The view outside the windows became strange, as if they were looking at the universe through water. Stars seemed to bend and twist around them. On the sensors, their own ship barely registered, exactly as planned. Displacement field stable, reported John. We're effectively invisible to all known types of sensors. Take us to the test range, Mark ordered. Time to show our weapons officers what their new toys can do. The Nemesis glided silently through space toward a field of old satellites and space junk, their practice targets. As they approached, Lisa prepared the weapon systems. Dark matter torpedoes armed, she reported. These aren't like normal weapons, Captain. They don't just explode. They temporarily create a point where physics itself breaks down. Mark leaned forward in his chair. "Show me." Lisa launched a single torpedo at a large piece of space debris. The weapon, barely visible as a black streak against the stars, hit its target. Instead of an explosion, there was a moment of absolute stillness. Then the target simply ceased to exist. A perfect sphere of empty space marked where it had been. "That's what happens when you tear a hole in reality," John said with a grim smile. "Imagine what it'll do to his Zarkak's command ship." Suddenly, all alerts started blaring. "Captain," Peter called from communications. "Emergency message from Earth Command. The Zarkaks are attacking Proxima Centauri colony." Mark's face hardened. "How many enemy ships?" "At least 30, including 2 command ships." The captain looked at his crew. This wasn't a test anymore. Real lives were at stake now. "Plot a course for Proxima Centauri," he ordered. "Maximum speed. It's time to show the Zarkaks what happens when they push humanity too far." The Nemesis turned, its quantum drive powering up. The ship that had been humanity's secret weapon was about to become their open declaration of war. As they prepared to jump, Mark looked at his crew. "They think they know what humans are capable of. They think they've seen our best weapons." He smiled slightly. "Let's show them how wrong they are." Aria's hologram flickered. "Quantum drive at full power. Jump coordinates set. The Nemesis is ready for its first real battle, Captain. Then let's give them a fight they'll never forget," Mark said as the ship leaped into action, racing to save humanity's largest off-world colony, and to show the galaxy that the age of Zarkak's dominance was about to end. The UES Nemesis dropped out of quantum drive near Proxima Centauri, and the bridge crew gasped at what they saw. 30 massive Zarkak ships surrounded the colony, their purple energy weapons firing at the planet's shields. Colony shields at 15%. Lieutenant Amy Roberts reported from her station. "They won't last another 10 minutes. Captain Mark Stevens stood from his chair. "Then we have 9 minutes to show them what this ship can do." Lieutenant Martinez, "Target the nearest command ship." "Aria, activate quantum displacement field." The Nemesis shimmered and partly faded from view. On the main screen, they watched the Zarkak ships continue their attack, completely unaware of humanity's secret weapon. "Sir," Amy called out suddenly, "I'm picking up something strange in their communications. There's a pattern in how they talk to each other. Each command has to go through exactly 5 steps before any ship can fire." Mark smiled. "That's their weakness. They're so organized they can't adapt quickly." "Aria, time until we're in firing range." 30 seconds, Captain," the AI responded. "Quantum displacement field will need to drop in 45 seconds." The massive human ship glided silently through space, invisible to the enemy sensors. They passed right between 2 Zarkak's destroyers, close enough to see the alien writing on their hulls. In range, Lisa Martinez announced. Dark matter torpedoes locked on target. Mark took a deep breath. "Fire." 2 black streaks shot from the Nemesis, barely visible against space. The Zarkak's command ship never saw them coming. When the torpedoes hit, reality itself seemed to bend around the massive alien vessel. Then, with no sound or explosion, a perfect sphere of the ship simply vanished. The effect on the other Zarkak ships was immediate. The vessels near the destroyed command ship froze, waiting for orders that would never come. "Quantum field dropping in 5 seconds," Aria warned. "All ships, this is Commander Vextal." A Zarkak's voice suddenly boomed over their communications. "Unknown human vessel detected. All ships, destroy. Fire everything we have at the second command ship," Mark ordered. The Nemesis became fully visible just as it launched its full arsenal. Dark matter torpedoes, quantum missiles, and energy beams all struck at once. The second Zarkak's command ship didn't even have time to raise its shields. Amy's eyes widened as she watched her displays. "Sir, their whole command structure is falling apart. Without the command ships, the others can't coordinate their attacks. Show them we mean business, Mark ordered. Target their weapon systems. Let's see how they like being helpless. The next 5 minutes were unlike anything in human military history. The Nemesis danced between the massive alien ships, its quantum displacement field making it nearly impossible to hit. Each time the field dropped, they fired another devastating barrage. "Sir," Amy called out excitedly, "I'm intercepting their communications. They're scared. They've never seen anything like this." One by one, the Zarkak ships began to retreat. Without their commanders to give orders, each ship had to decide for itself, and they all chose to run. "Should we pursue?" Lissa asked, her fingers ready at the weapons controls. Mark shook his head. "Let them go. Let them tell their empire what happened here. Let them spread the word that humanity is not as helpless as they thought." The bridge crew cheered as the last Zarkak ship disappeared into fold space. On the planet below, the colony shields had held, barely. Thousands of lives had been saved. "Message from Earth Command," Amy reported, smiling. They say we did it. The first real victory against the Zarkaks. Ever. "Send them our battle data," Mark ordered. "Especially Lieutenant Roberts' discovery about their communication patterns. That could be crucial for the next battle." As the crew began damage reports and system checks, Mark looked out at the stars. The Zarkaks had ruled this galaxy through fear for centuries, but they had never faced anything like humanity before. They had never faced an enemy who could turn their greatest strength, their perfect organization, into their greatest weakness. "Aria," he called to the ship's AI. "Send a message to all human colonies. Tell them what happened here. Tell them that humanity just proved something important." "What message shall I send, Captain?" the AI asked. Mark smiled. "Tell them that the Zarkaks aren't invincible after all. Tell them that humanity's darkest hour is over. And tell them that the real fight is just beginning." Intelligence Officer Kevin Bishop stared at his screen in the dimly lit analysis room of the UES Nemesis. After weeks of studying the Zarkaks' communications intercepted during the Battle of Proxima, he had found something incredible. "Captain Stevens," he called out through the ship's comm system, "I found their home system." Minutes later, the ship's senior staff gathered in the command center. The large display showed a map of the galaxy, with a bright red dot marking their discovery. "Every Zarkak's command signal can be traced back to this point," Kevin explained, pointing to the map. "They tried to hide it behind layers of coded transmissions, but they didn't count on us breaking their language so quickly." Captain Mark Stevens studied the map carefully. "That's deep in their territory. Hundreds of their ships guard that sector. But that's not all," Kevin added, changing the display. "I've detected other signals too. Different languages, different patterns. Sir, I think there are other alien species out there, ones the Zarkaks have enslaved." Aria's hologram appeared, adding new data to the display. Analysis confirms at least 5 distinct civilizations under Zarkak's control. All show signs of advanced technology, but their communication suggests they are not willing participants in the Empire. Lisa Martinez spoke up from her tactical station. "We could use this. If these species hate the Zarkaks as much as we do, then we might find allies." Mark finished. He stood straighter, making his decision. "Plot a course for the edge of Zarkak space. We're going to make some friends." The Nemesis used its quantum displacement drive to slip past the Empire's outer defenses. They found their first potential allies on a mining world, the Kilari, a species of tall, blue-skinned beings who had been forced to work for the Zarkaks for 3 centuries. "You fight the oppressors?" asked Kenra, the Kilari resistance leader, her large silver eyes wide with hope. They met in secret, deep underground. "We thought no one could stand against them." "We don't just fight them," Mark replied. "We've beaten them. And with your help, we can do more than that. We can end their empire." Over the next few days, the Nemesis visited 3 more enslaved worlds. Each species had a different story, but they all shared the same hatred for their Zarkax masters. The Vectori, master engineers forced to build Zarkax weapons. The Sil, whose powerful psychic abilities were suppressed by Zarkax technology. The Drell, whose vast knowledge of fold space travel had been stolen and twisted by the Empire. Each group agreed to help, but they all said the same thing. No rebellion could succeed without destroying the Zarkax Central Command on their home world. Back on the Nemesis, Kevin showed the combined intelligence from their new allies. The Zarkax homeworld is called Imperius Prime. It's defended by their largest fleet and something they call the Grand Barrier, a shield that covers the entire planet. The Vectori can help us get past the fleet, Lisa said, reviewing the data. The Sil can disrupt their communications, and the Drell knows secret paths through fold space. Amy Roberts had been studying the Zarkax communications even more closely. Sir, their entire empire depends on orders from their supreme command on Imperius Prime. If we can take out their leadership, the whole empire falls, Mark finished. He looked around at his crew. But first, we need to coordinate with all our new allies. One mistake, and we lose everything. Over the next week, the Nemesis became the center of the greatest rebel alliance the galaxy had ever seen. Secret messages passed between worlds. Plans were made. Weapons were prepared. The Kileri shared their knowledge of Zarkax shield frequencies. The Vectori modified the Nemesis's weapons to be even more effective. The Sil taught them how to confuse Zarkax sensors with psychic interference. The Drell showed them hidden routes that would take them right to the heart of the Empire. Finally, everything was ready. Captain Stevens stood on his bridge, looking at the representatives of 4 alien species standing with his crew. The Zarkax think they're invincible because they've never lost, he said. But they've never faced a united galaxy before. They've never faced humanity working together with allies who know their every weakness. He sat in his captain's chair, his voice firm with determination. Send the signal to all rebel forces. The attack begins in 12 hours. It's time to show the Zarkax that their empire of fear is about to fall. As the Nemesis prepared for its greatest battle, the crew knew that win or lose, the galaxy would never be the same after this day. The space around Imperius Prime erupted in chaos as thousands of ships dropped out of fold space. The Zarkax home fleet scrambled to respond, but they had never faced an attack like this before. Captain Mark Stevens stood on the bridge of the UES Nemesis, watching as their plan unfolded. Kileri ships drew enemy fire with their enhanced shields. Vectori vessels targeted the Zarkax weapon systems with surgical precision. Sil cruisers broadcast psychic interference that confused enemy sensors. And through gaps opened by the Drell's calculations, human ships poured into the battle. Sir, Lisa Martinez called from Tactical. The Zarkax are trying to coordinate their defense, but the Sil disruption is working. Their command structure is breaking down. Mark nodded. Area. Status of the Grand Barrier. The eye's hologram flickered as it analyzed the massive planetary shield. The Vectori calculations were correct. The shield has a weakness at its power transfer points. A precisely timed strike could create a gap. Then it's time, Mark said. Send the signal to all ships. Operation Thunderstrike begins now. Across the battlefield, Allied ships moved into position. The Nemesis, leading a group of Earth's most advanced vessels, activated their quantum displacement fields. They became ghost ships, barely visible against the stars. Their supreme command is trying to rally their forces, Amy Roberts reported from communications. They're panicking. They've never lost control like this before. The Nemesis glided through the chaos of battle, untouchable in its quantum-shifted state. Around them, Zarkax ships fired blindly, their perfect organization shattered by the combined assault. Vectori strike teams report ready, Lisa announced. Kileri forces are in position. Sil disruption at maximum. Mark took a deep breath. Everything depended on perfect timing. Lieutenant Martinez, target the shield power transfer point. All ships, prepare to fire on my mark. The nemesis of weapons powered up, dark matter torpedoes ready to launch. The quantum displacement field would drop in exactly 15 seconds. 10 seconds. I counted down. 9. 8. They're detecting something. Amy shouted. The Zarkak Supreme Command is ordering all ships to our position. 5. 4. Steady, Mark ordered, his hands gripping his chair. 3, 2, 1. Fire. The nemesis became fully visible just as it launched its weapons. Every Allied ship fired at the exact same moment. Their combined firepower focused on a single point in the Grand Barrier. For a second, nothing happened. Then the shield began to crack. Direct hit. Lisa shouted, shield integrity failing. The Grand Barrier, pride of the Zarkak's empire, split open like breaking glass. Through the gap, they could see the surface of Imperius Prime and the massive tower that housed the Supreme Command. All ships, follow us in, Mark ordered. The Zarkaks are about to learn why you should never push humanity to its limits. The Nemesis led the charge through the shield gap, its dark hull reflecting the light of explosions around it. Zarkak's defensive towers fired desperately, but Vectori engineers had already sabotaged their targeting systems. Supreme Command is trying to evacuate, Amy reported with a smile. But the Drell have blocked their fold space escape routes. Send them our message, Mark ordered. Amy opened all channels. Her voice rang across every frequency. Attention Zarkaks, Supreme Command. For centuries, you ruled through fear. You destroyed our research station. You attacked our colonies. You thought we would surrender. Instead, we united the galaxy against you. Your empire ends today. The Nemesis's final attack was precise and unstoppable. Dark matter torpedoes struck the command tower, their reality-bending power erasing the heart of the Zarkak's empire from existence. Across the galaxy, every Zarkak ship and base lost contact with their supreme leaders. The empire that had ruled through absolute control found itself completely without direction. Sir, Amy called out, her voice filled with emotion. I'm getting reports from all sectors. The Zarkak's forces, they're surrendering. All of them. The bridge crew cheered. On the planets below, billions of beings from dozens of species celebrated their freedom. The empire that had seemed invincible had fallen to the combined might of those it had tried to conquer. Captain Mark Stevens stood on his bridge, looking at the freed homeworld of their greatest enemy. Send word to Earth, he ordered. Tell them that humanity didn't just survive. We did what no one else could. We united the galaxy. We brought down an empire. And we proved that no power in the universe can stand against us when we stand together. The UES Nemesis, the ship that had started as humanity's last hope, had become the symbol of a new age of freedom in the galaxy. And as its crew looked toward the stars, they knew that this was just the beginning of humanity's journey among the stars.